thoughts on this Kentucky program right now?
Listen, man, it's struggling. I think we've said it all along from the beginning. The pieces don't fit. I think everybody's kind of had their say, and I don't disagree with anybody. I think that there's something going on. I think in the locker room, there's something going on with this team. They're not competing the way you would expect their talent level to dictate. I think that's the biggest concern, that something's wrong. It's not just losing games. That you got a lot of moving pieces. There's no excuses, Kentucky. I think they missed in the portal a little bit on guys. It just didn't click as much as I don't think he. I think he has shot a lot of shot takers, not necessarily a lot of shot makers. He's got volume shooting guys, and analytically though, that's okay if you're going to shoot a number of them, but they're not good enough defensively to overcome that. It's going to be a long, long, tough year. And if Jalen Lowe doesn't play, then I don't know where they go. And getting Quaintance back is it's not. He's an athletic guy. He's not a bucket. That's not what his game is. So I don't know where the improvement comes from, other than looking in the mirror individually and trying to get better. It's concerning for and then the weight of the expectations. I think them and maybe St. John to an extent have been really two early disappointing teams for where we expected them with their talent level and their preseason expectations.
Yeah, Justin, is that, and I think that is kind of the danger. I would imagine that if Mark Pope had a choice, he would not have played the portal lottery as hard as he played it this year. But guys left, graduated, and that's just sometimes the way it goes. But is that the peril of reaching in there and depending on it like that, because you just don't really know how guys will come together?
Yeah, I think Kentucky, it's a few different things. Like I think one, to RC's point, I think the expectations that we were putting on this team were too lofty to start with. I mean, obviously, you see, the dollar amount that this roster took to build, and Mark Pope's obviously a great head coach in college basketball, but it doesn't, like, from the jump. I never was like, okay, this team works well together. Like, for one, you bring in a guy, like Jalen Lowe, who gets hurt, or and then you've got basically a guy in Aberdeen who is a great basketball player, but all last year was behind probably the best guard in the country in Walter Clayton at Florida, right? And so now you bring him in. Now he has to be the starting point guard for the Kentucky Wildcats. Then you've got more guys that just aren't really, like RC saying, not really shot makers, right? Like, you look at the games that the ranked teams that they've played, they've shot 24% within those games from three, right? And in those games, there has to be some sort of shot making. And so I think there might be some things going on in the locker room now because of, once you start losing a couple and you start putting them, you start seeing some of the articles and things like that, it can kind of break up a locker room. But at the same time, like, without conference play starting yet, I think a guy like Mark Pope can figure something out. I don't necessarily know what. But I think it's tough. Like, I think you're probably gonna see more of this with the way the transfer portal is, right? You just kind of try to go out and get the best players available, and yet they don't necessarily fit with what you got going on. And so, I think that's just kind of what we're seeing now with Kentucky.
But that's the problem. You got an unlimited checking account. You got to get it right. It's on you just to get it right. Like, you got an open checkbook. You can sign whomever you want. Again, they look good on paper. We thought the depth was there. It is what it is. They have been as probably the most disappointing team, I think, in college basketball to start the year for the expectations and talent. Everything's going to be talked about. Justin, I said this maybe a couple of years ago, and I thought it started with Michigan State. But for different reasons. I thought Carolina did this the following year when they came back from the Final 14 when they were number one. They were rated really high, just never from the very beginning looked like that they were ever going to be that team we thought. And I think that's Kentucky this year. I don't think Kentucky will ever be what we expect them to be or thought they would be when we looked at their roster and talent from the beginning of the year. If Quentin comes back, and he's an elite athlete, right? And that's tough to do as an athlete in the middle of the season from an ACL. If he comes back, now he can provide rim protection, and that could change something. Now, if he can start blocking shots and they can get out in transition, make up for some of their issues, then it makes the game a lot easier, which he could do. But it's unfair to him to put the responsibility of just of anchoring their defense of that team. So we'll see what happens, man. I mean, I'm not holding my breath on Kentucky doing much of anything. Lowe's going to be in and out of the lineup. He's one bump from the shoulders issue. They are what they are. I know he just came back, tried to make a comeback. We'll see if he can sustain it. But if we're waiting on Quaintance to come back and finish this, then I think they're in trouble. I don't see where the reinforcements come from. And they got a big stretch coming up here, man. We're going to find out a lot about those guys. They got Indiana coming up. They got back-to-back games on their schedule. I can't remember who else it is, but they got back-to-back ranked opponents, and we're gonna learn a lot about them.
Yeah,
we're gonna learn a lot about Kentucky real quick. Like, they don't have time to sit around and pout. It's St. John's. We just talked about it. Like, two teams that I just said. It's ironic we were talking about that. Two teams that I've had, and I'm more partial and understanding to St. John's than I am Kentucky. But St. John's was just a top 5 team. And they obviously beat Ole Miss, and so it's ironic. Who wins that game? I mean, that's a massive, massive game that Kentucky, I think, has to show up with Indiana and them. So the next 3 games, they got Central. They'll win that next, and we'll see.
Yeah, to your point, I don't think anybody's pulling out the small violins and playing it for Kentucky because they're the biggest. They're the biggest spenders in the sport. Justin, how much of a target do you think that makes them? Like, just I know that there are a lot of schools that have healthy bankrolls and spend, but just when you're playing Kentucky, knowing that those guys spent $22 million, how big a target does that make them?
I mean, they've got a big target just by being Kentucky. First of all, I mean that's you walk in knowing that, right? But then you add and you start seeing public record of what you're currently making and what the checks are that you're getting. Of course, these teams that are playing against them that probably have a way less amount of money coming in as far as NIL, of course they're going to want to take them out. But I don't, to RC's point, like, it's never an excuse, especially when you have that kind of money. I mean, you could go get the best point guard, best small forward, best power forward. Like, you could literally hand pick whatever you wanted to. But what's confusing to me is it's like, I watched the UNC game where Kentucky played UNC in Rupp, and they went on a stretch. I want to say it was like 7 minutes towards the end of the game where they missed like 13 straight field goals, and I think they scored like 2 points within those 7 minutes. So I guess when I watch it, it's like, what's gonna fix that, right? Like, an athlete, albeit a phenomenal athlete, but an athlete coming off of an injury isn't going to fix that, right? Like, one point guard, albeit he might be able to help a whole lot if he's fully healthy, isn't going to fix that. Like, there's just certain holes and gaps within this Kentucky team that, just to RC's point, I'm kind of with him. Like, I don't see anything really drastically changing within this season. So yeah, I mean, you throw the 22 mil or however much it is, that they threw out to this roster. I think it was just constructed in not a great way, and obviously pieces aren't working and things aren't working out great.
Man, that's tough. It's tough to have